I feel like there's a lot of very dangerous and alienating rhetoric coming out of the White House. Where's my bacon go? Here it is. I feel like there's a lot of very dangerous and alienating rhetoric coming out of the White House at the moment. In the news recently, it was claimed by the Trump administration. Um, I believe the Secretary of State said this, that Europe was attacking American culture and our way of life, and that Europe was facing civilizational erasure. And to me, these are very odd claims. But with rhetoric like this, I feel it is the administration signaling and pre-positioning itself to deny aid to uh, European countries that will be invaded by President of the Russian Federation, President Vladimir Putin. Once the invasion of Ukraine is over, once the Ukrainian government has officially capitulated the government over to the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, he will then go on to seek more conflict with the countries of the Baltic region, uh, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland. He will invade them, and Belarus will join the Russian Federation as a state or territory within it. I'm not. And then he will go on to invade countries like Poland, Germany, and France. And if you were to look up a picture of American military bases in Europe, you would notice that like 50% of them are in the countries of Germany and Italy. And because of the White House's, President Trump's administration's obvious attack on Europe and deflection of aid towards them, that once the invasion of these countries does commence, we will see an immediate withdrawal of all US troops from Europe, and that it will be similar to our withdrawal from like Iran and Afghanistan, where we will leave like all of these tanks, all of these military bases just open to Russian occupation. And because we've been providing so much security to countries like Germany and Italy, that their fall will be like very sudden, very disastrous, very brutal. I believe that like the invasion of Germany will probably take not more than 3 weeks to maybe a month. But let's have an American history fun fact. On April, no, August 9th, 1864, the Army of Northern Virginia, under the leadership of General Robert E. Lee, surrendered to the forces of Ulysses S. Grant at the McLean House, after the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse. Sometime in the year of 1894, the building, the courthouse itself of Appomattox Courthouse, burned down And in the 1880s, a group of investors actually purchased the McLean House and disassembled it in order to ship the parts to Chicago, ship them westward to be displayed at the Chicago World Fair. But eventually, the investors in this project went bankrupt, and so the building materials sat in the former yard of the McLean House, uncovered and open to the elements and theft. It wasn't until 1964 that the building of Appomattox Courthouse was actually rebuilt. And this was done by the National Park Service, and it was converted into a visitor center to commemorate the victory of General Ulysses S. and turned into a war memorial. And I would like to point out that the building of Appomattox Courthouse was not reconstructed until after my grandmother had been born, after my father had been born, and after my mother had been born, all of whom were born before the year of 1964. And so, for many decades, you could not even go and visit arguably one of the most famous battles in American local history. When the National Park Service actually began restoration and reconstruction of both Appomattox Courthouse and the McLean Building, the National Park Service states that there were only 5,000 bricks left of the McLean House, and that the rest of it had to be purchased from outside for the reconstruction. And so, civilizational erasure looks like a burned down building and a pile of bricks. Oh, I'm so sorry. I would actually like to thank the National Park Service for being one of the very few American organizations, federal embodiments, that is actually dedicated to the preservation of actual American history.